때까지 I'm up, yeah.
Dumb phone sales, also known as flip phones, have surged in sales entirely. Now, on average, here's the thing. 13 to 18-year-olds spend, hold on, can you guys guess? Take a guess without looking at the prompt here. What is it?
Oh.
70% of the time?
More, 70% of the time? So like more or less than 5 hours a day?
More.
Oh, more.
More or less than 6?
I would say around
More.
6.
More or less than 7?
More.
More.
More or less than 10?
Less.
Okay, all right. 8 hours and 39 minutes daily on mobile devices. Comparatively, baby boomers average about 3.5 hours on smartphones daily. Whether or not it's healthy to look at a screen that much, I don't think it's going to change in the next 20 years to be anything less. The question we're debating today is whether or not smartphones are sharpening our skills, making us smarter, or enabling us to become a little dull, or simply put, dumber. Joining me today is Brianna, active university student and junior, a entertainment executive, Mr. Galore, and Trish, who has been a high school teacher for how many years?
Almost 30 years.
30 years. And you say it's the most rewarding, fulfilling thing you can do.
I think so.
You get to change kids' lives. That's beautiful. Have smartphones gotten in the way of that?
I would think so, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So have you noticed there's been a huge difference between, when you got in your first 5 years versus now the last 5 years?
There weren't phones when I first started 30 years ago, so yeah.
So were
100%.
kids paying more attention in class back then?
Yes, absolutely.
You think so, really?
Yeah.
There wasn't like them, throwing spitballs at each other or anything?
There weren't. No. No, I don't think so.
Okay, so can you guys guess how many years of a person's life on average they will spend on a smartphone? Take a guess. Ready, go.
Well, it's got to be at least 10% of their life, I would say.
10%
So
of their life?
I'd say 10 years.
10 years, okay. Brianna?
I'd say 12 years.
12 years? 12 years. 12 years. What would you give it 12 years of your life for?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot?
Not willingly.
Vacationing.
Vacationing?
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this. Do you think smartphones take away from our lives, or do those 12 years enhance our lives for the other, let's say, hopefully 80 or 70 years?
Depends how you're using it.
Yeah.
Like if you're sitting at home all day, every day, playing video games, not doing anything productive with it, then obviously I think it's taking away from your life.
So let me ask you this. What did you rely on growing up? for
I
entertainment?
was very outdoors. We were street hockey all day, every day. Good Canadian boy.
Yeah.
You'd have to pull us in by the collar to get us in for dinner and go to bed. And winter, summer didn't matter. So
Right.
definitely not. I didn't grow up with a lot of video games either. Like I liked them, but we never played them. So
Was it a common thing?
video games, yeah. Friends had it, like Nintendo 64. Growing up, everyone played, but we never really did. It was
Right.
we were the group that liked to be outside.
And Trish, what was your entertainment back when you were growing up?
I had 7 brothers and sisters, so that was my entertainment. And we came in when the lights went off.
Really?
Yeah.
So, okay, so when you were growing up, even like friends that you had, maybe with like 1 or 2 siblings, what did you guys do?
We played with each other
just-
in pools, and yeah, we were out on the streets all the time. Like, again, I'm dating myself a little bit, but we didn't have that. We played games. Board games were a lot of it.
Really?
You know what? I think maybe video games, Atari came out, and I think my parents maybe got us an Atari system when I was a little bit older.
Were they opposed to getting you the Atari system?
No, not really.
They didn't see anything really wrong with it.
No,
Okay,
no.
that's interesting. Now, let me ask you guys this. Like, comparatively, do you think that the time wasters of the 90s, so when we talk about like video games or comic books or whatnot, are they better or worse than what we have today? Call it time wasters, depending on how you look at it, but smartphones.
I think it's not really apples for apples. Like it's not as comparable because I think the thing with a smartphone too is although you're wasting time on it, it's also creating more time for you when used appropriately. You can use it to enhance your scheduling. You can, learn things quicker. You can look things up instead of having to go to the library to figure it out. So I think the time waster back then, if you were reading a comic, you might only have 20 minutes of free time because the rest of your life was very mechanical, where now it's very digital.
Now, how does it compare to how does it compare to television? Because I have an interesting stat here. In the 90s, children aged 2 to 11 watched an average of 3 to 4 hours of TV a day. So, is that better or worse than smartphones?
I suppose it depends on who the parent is and where they're putting their children. Like, we didn't have cable TV, so I wasn't put in front of the television.
Okay, I see. And was that most parents, or?
I guess it depends on the parent. I guess, and again, it depends on who's giving their child the cell phone. Like nowadays, I remember looking at a statistic for this episode myself, and they were saying like, if you're putting giving your 6-month-old a phone, I'm like, who's giving their 6-month-old a phone?
Okay.
That's kinda
We got to
crazy.
pause it right there, but we'll be right back.
I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah.
The convenience of smartphones is supported with 72% of US adults citing a positive impact on their lives. Now, comparatively, 44% of teens report anxiety without their phones. Now, to get my generation's perspective a little deeper, I did separate interviews with two very different 20-year-olds. Check it out. What is your name and what do you own?
My name is Noah Abdel Matsu.
My name is Miguel,
And I've owned a flip phone for about the past year.
and I own a smartphone.
Do you think you would feel more or less connected to society if you own a flip phone?
I would say less connected. A lot of the stuff that you need to find out on the fly, or if you're just out and you need to make a call, it's a lot easier to do it on a smartphone.
In my experience, it's made me more connected to those around me. I think it challenges me to pursue relationships in ways that people will use their iPhone to or their smartphone to. Like,
Does your device allow you to be more productive, would you say, with the flip phone?
I would say for me personally, yes. It's different for everybody.
I would say it depends on the person, to be honest, because smartphones can make you a lot more productive, but they can also distract you.
If your average screen time is 2 to 3 hours a day, I have an extra 2-3 hours a day.
How much time do you spend on your phone? Do you have the exact amount, or can you give me a guesstimate?
I can check for you.
Maybe 30 minutes.
It's somewhere between 4 to like 7 hours.
Is the smartphone what makes someone anxious and depressed, or is it the self-discipline of the actual individual using that smartphone?
I think it's all about your own personal mindset.
It probably falls on the person. I know these social media companies know what they're doing. They're trying to make these things as addictive as possible, but it is ultimately, I'd say, up to us.
You can't blame the social media sites for existing. Like, they're there to make money, and if you use them, that's your choice.
So one of my questions to you guys, and just jump in here, is it as easy to say it's just up to the individual using the phone? Is it as easy to say that?
I think no. I personally no, because there's so much information readily available. I think there has to be something there at least for misinformation, or especially in a world where if it gets the most likes, it becomes fact.
Right. Now, if let's say somebody's spending 6 hours a day on their smartphone, or 2 hours a day on their smartphone, can we just say, oh, well, you know what, this person can handle the 6 hours, that's okay. This person can only handle 2 hours, or do we need some sort of standard here?
Well, I was doing some research for the show,
Right.
and I came across something where it said, if you're going to, there's a guideline for certain people, and one was like 6 months and above should have a certain amount on their phone. 6 months of age. Sam.
You said
No,
you
that's
saw a
wild.
6-month-old with a flip phone?
Yes.
That's
Oh my
not
gosh.
needed.
No,
Like
but
that's just there's no world that's needed.
Right.
even
So,
seeing like a 5-year-old too, like there's no reason why young children need a cell phone like that.
okay, so let me ask you this. Now, when you send, because I know you have kids, so when you send your daughter to, let's say, grade 4, grade 3, wouldn't you want them to have a phone if they got lost, or if they were, needing something?
So when my husband and I got our daughter her first phone, it was a time, and actually even at parent-teacher interviews, we find a lot of people say to us, when is an appropriate age for a child to get a phone?
Oh, they ask you.
Oftentimes we'll get that as teachers. And I say it's really about age and maturity, but I find about grade 7 or 8 is an appropriate time. They're of the age, they need security, they're on their own, and they need it for safety because they're often coming home on their own
Right.
at that age.
Do you find, like, one of the things that I was thinking about is they should get it when they have self-awareness.
Yes.
And
agreed.
that's up to the individual, like for the parent to make their best judgment.
But I think too, like for kids who maybe have like exceptionalities or maybe like allergies or even, diabetes, I think that it is useful to have because you never know. And maybe too, they feel more comfortable reaching out to like a parent or a friend or a family member
Right.
over a teacher.
Do phones change who we are, or is it the individual person using the phone?
I think phones have changed our culture as a whole for people. It's made people less comfortable with face-to-face contact. I find, and I think it's made people feel like the keyboard warriors, where now we have a whole new form of bullying and things like that we never used to have. So.
Interesting.
But I think too, influencers, like a lot of people want to look up to influencers, and as a result, that changes who they would become because they're trying to, follow the trends.
Yep.
So do they? Here's a point blank question, Trish. In your time span of being a teacher, seeing it in the classroom, do you find that students primarily use it for a smart tool or for a, for lack of better words, dumb tool?
Dumb tool.
Really? And you see it even in the classroom as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I would have to say it's because their judgment is they want the social tool. It's rare for them to use it for an educational tool because the first thing they want to do is it's their friends. It's a social thing. Like,
it's like
my
feeling
friend.
included.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back with that point, talking about it a little bit more in segment 3. Thank you for joining us. And hey, stay tuned for more.
I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah.
Smartphones have transformed our lives, providing instant access to information and keeping us connected like never before. Now, while concerns exist about their impact on focus and stress, I will say it's important to note that studies have also shown positive effects. For instance, research suggests that moderate social media use can actually enhance feelings of social connectedness and support mental well-being, particularly during challenging times. My question is, so on the point of social connectedness, is that a false sense of reality? Like, do you actually feel more connected to your friends when you're on your smartphone, or just more connected to society when you're on your smartphone?
I feel more in the loop, but I feel a very big disconnect. I'm a pick up the phone and call. I love vinyls and cassette tapes and old school analog. So I always get in trouble because people are like, you could just text me. No, I'm a call guy.
One thing that frustrates me a lot is, even as a business owner, as a young entrepreneur, I get really frustrated with the fact that sometimes in my mind, when I'm pitching somebody or something like that, I'll escape to an email or a text over a phone call.
Yeah.
But I think it's so easy to do because that's what our society has changed to. Like, everything is so digital now that
And they make
everybody
it okay.
resort to it. Yeah.
It's become the new norm, right? Like, nobody leaves voicemails anymore. It's all about efficiency and speed of sending a text, but it's very impersonal and it's very in your face because we expect a response right away.
Right.
I actually think it's a false sense of connectedness.
Yeah.
I really do, because try picking up a phone and making a phone call. Very few people can do it. And if you say to a student, can you go and ask this person to do something? They're like, in person?
Yeah.
Or, I asked my daughter, can you call the pizza place?
Can I ask you a
on
question?
the phone?
Yeah.
You want me to make a personal phone call?
What about presentations? So you're in English, right?
That's a joke.
So did you notice when you were teaching 30 years ago that kids were not necessarily more inclined, but just more comfortable doing
Absolutely.
presentations in front of the classroom? Because I swear to you, I know people close to me that have panic attacks and will call in sick.
And a lot of the times, can I do it at lunchtime? Can I do it after school? Can I do it with just my peer at lunchtime or after school?
No, that happens to me even
Yeah.
being in school. So many times I've shown up and no group members are there and I'm pitching it by myself.
Really?
Yeah. And it's all
Yeah.
because of anxiety related to
absolutely.
presentations.
Or try organizing your class and you've got like 5 periods to do these many seminars and they're like, well, so-and-so didn't show up again. So-and-so didn't show up again.
Is that smartphones the problem, though? Let's take it back to smartphones. Are they causing that problem?
I think it's certainly enhancing anxiety in people that are, not used to this human connection anymore. We're all connected to our phones, not each other.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's like the phone's the drug, but not the actual. I don't know, because there have been studies that basically say they can't actually directly tie a smartphone. Like the University of Toronto actually did this. They can't directly tie a smartphone to people not being able to remember stuff better. Because when they're told they have to memorize it, they'll memorize it. Instead, we just kind of use the smartphones to help us remember it.
Sure.
I think they're also shifting education a lot. Like, at least when I've been in elementary schools, now like anything that gives children anxiety, they want to avoid because they don't
Absolutely.
want kids to have that anxiety. But at the same time, if you don't try to teach them, they're always going to have that fear.
Yeah.
So that's not benefiting them.
Yes. Well, it's the same with like parents are saying, well, my son needs to have their phone in their class or my daughter because I have to call them.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me ask you guys this. Let's say you're a parent and you want to give your 16-year-old a smartphone.
Mhm.
Can you sell me on why you would do that?
My thing would just be safety if they're walking home alone or something like
But
that.
they're 16. Like they're
But there's no
early
payphones,
teens.
right? There's no
But you never
payphones
know.
anymore.
Or very rare
So,
in between.
and
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So it's my thing would be safety. If they're coming home and something happens, they need to get a hold of a parent. That's for me. That's the biggest reason. Otherwise, it's the only. It may not be a great reason, but the only reason is social media.
But I also think too, like being in school, for me, obviously some kids abuse it, but I think that it has helped me in school because some textbooks are not that
Yes.
greatly laid out. So for understanding concepts and everything, I think it's been a great tool.
Trish, what do you find? Like as a teacher, do you like? I'm just thinking in my head, with ChatGPT coming out or the ability to break things down further. I mean, even people thought, like math teachers, I can imagine. I remember not being allowed to use calculators in class. And I was always like, well, why? They're a tool. Let's use it. Are smartphones the same as that?
Math teachers don't allow phones in their classroom. They're in the pockets because they need an actual good calculator. Well, my best friend is a math teacher. They go in the pockets.
Really?
No cell phones in math classes.
But why? Like,
Because they're not a tool. Like,
do you find that they enable the student to not have to think?
They're just not a valuable tool in a math class because they're not going to give you the right tools to get what you need.
Like get the answer.
Correct.
One thing I'll say, and in high school, because we're the same age, is I remember using smartphones to break down the problem for me, but then I would just write down the answer at the end of the day. And then I would just copy the show your work thing.
Yeah.
So I get it. Okay, we'll be right back with segment 4, where we're going to talk a little bit about solutions. We'll be right back.
Rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah.
The usage of smartphones is evidently growing congruently with generations ahead of us. Now, with that in mind, our only solution isn't to purchase a flip phone, considering the need for maps, like myself, internet access, and hey, a smooth user interface. Now, as we've discussed, a moderate amount of social media can enhance feelings of social connectedness and support mental well-being, so it's not all that bad to own a smartphone. We can't undermine the efficiency and convenient value they have brought to our life. This all begs the question, though, how do we move forward in the best possible way? Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate really quick. So you all told me you have a smartphone, yet we all just discussed all the problems regarding the smartphones. Why do you have a smartphone if there's so many problems?
I don't think that you could survive in today's society without one. Like even now, like the elderly generation struggles because if you want to just go to pay for your parking, it's all based on
or go and
law.
order at a restaurant. Now that there's no menus.
Or concert,
Yeah.
you can't print tickets anymore. So it's either get with it or get rolled over, as you had mentioned earlier.
got
And
it.
it's
You
yeah.
got it.
And do you feel that way? Like for
Absolutely.
your generation,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you better get used to it.
Absolutely.
not
Even
going
like
anywhere.
students will ask me something in class, and if I don't know the answer, I sometimes will say, "Hey Siri, what's the answer to
Right,
this?"
right. So how do you expect, though, that our generation, or even Gen Alpha, let's say, like 16-year-olds, right? How do you expect that they are able to connect to society when society only really connects in that age group on smartphones? Like they'll literally be isolated if they don't have a smartphone.
Yeah.
I don't think we're saying that you can't have it. You just need to use it at appropriate times. That's all I'm saying. So as a teacher, even I find like, would they want me at the front of the class in the middle of a lesson? Somebody call me, hey Sam.
Right.
All I'm saying is it needs to be used at appropriate times, and they need to understand there's an appropriate time and place. If I'm teaching a lesson and their Be Real comes up, why are they doing a Be Real?
That you
when
know
I'm-
about that is like just shows your teacher.
Sam, they're doing a Be Real when I'm teaching. I'm like,
So Brianna, let me ask you then, like, do you think you could have gotten through high school without a smartphone?
No.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I used it a lot when I was studying too. Because again, even if I didn't connect with how they were teaching, I would resort to my phone.
Or go on YouTube, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Okay. So how do we teach, or how do you find that level of self-discipline? So Brianna, in you, like, I don't know if it was taught in you to find that level of self-awareness, but like, how are you self-aware to know when you're on your phone too much or not too much?
So like for me personally, I'm too busy to be on my phone 24/7, but I do know people who actually like set time limits on certain apps. And I know that iPhone gives you that opportunity.
Which I do. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also too, like the screen time makes me more self-aware of how long I've actually been on my phone daily.
Yeah, I think making that more
okay.
front facing. Like I don't know how much I spend on my phone. I don't.
Right.
It's not in my face every day saying you've spent this much time on your phone. Where I'm sure if I was more aware of it, I would probably spend less time because it
But
would
now,
shock
see, you
me.
use your phone for your career. So
I do, but I'm also just a doom scroller. I scroll all day
Yeah,
just because it's, you know, you get sucked into the vortex, so it's
Yeah.
hard not to.
Yeah. So like, okay, Junior, what would you do then to eliminate that doom scroll? Like, do you need to find yourself more busy, or is it a matter of just saying, I've got to put my phone away in another room? Like what?
Yeah, it's the self-awareness of just realizing, oh my God, I just spent 20 minutes on my phone, gonna put it down and just focus on something else.
Focus on something else.
Yeah.
I find it so hard though. Like
Yeah.
I
is.
seriously find it so hard. I'm like,
It is.
what's everybody else doing?
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not doing anything to benefit
Yeah.
yourself. Okay, Trish, what are you doing? I mean, I know you have a daughter, you have kids, right? So that's actually going to be an interesting take. What do you do to teach those kids self-awareness?
Well, our kids are very busy. They're all three of them are in high level sports. They didn't always have time to do that kind of thing. So I think it's important to keep them into other things and to be doing other active things.
I see.
Yeah.
So give them opportunities. Go play sports. Like
Do other things.
With
We
human
always did
connection,
family
right? Yeah.
activities. Like, I don't know.
board
just-
game nights
well, we
growing
did,
up.
We did that.
Well, that's it. We still
So-
like our family is very close. So Friday night, instead of watching a movie, we'll play games.
Interesting.
You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of our
Yeah,
thing. And I
we
don't know
did
if that's
kind of
lost on this generation
yeah,
or what.
I know.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I feel like this could be an hour-long conversation and we could go way more in depth, but I appreciate your insights. And I think hopefully some people learned a couple things. Thanks. Hopefully. So it's very clear that the impact of smartphones isn't just about the technology itself, but it's how we choose to use it. And whether it's self-discipline, societal pressure, or the balance between proactive and non-proactive screen time, the key does lie in self-awareness and making intentional choices. If you're a parent and your child is young, not to give parental advice or anything, but considering the fact that maybe they're not ready for an innate level of self-awareness just yet, if they're around 8, 10 years old, then maybe you use your best judgment. But we want to hear from you, especially if you disagreed or feel we missed something important in today's episode. Join the conversation at My Generation on all social media platforms. And with that, we'll end off with this. Do not simply accept what you are told. Challenge your thinking, engage in differences, and listen to new perspectives. Thank you. Have a great night.
나만의 세상 만들어잖아. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. 해가 지고 뜰 때까지 I'm up, yeah.